My family forgot to book my plane ticket and hotel for my sister's Hawaii wedding. Sorry, honey, it's all booked. Everyone went but me. I just said that happens and ghosted them for a year. Hey Reddit, so my family decided I wasn't invited to my own sister's destination wedding. They just neglected to tell me until it was too late to do anything about it. Then they spent the entire reception turning me into the punchline. What they didn't know was that I'd been quietly documenting their behavior for years. Not because I'm paranoid, because when you're the designated family black sheep, you learn to keep receipts. This is what happens when you push someone out of the family photo and forget they know where all the skeletons are buried. The text came through at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. My sister Meredith had just sent the final wedding itinerary to the family group, flight details, hotel confirmations, shuttle schedules from the resort to the ceremony venue, emergency contact numbers for the wedding coordinator. Everything organized into a neat little PDF. I scrolled through it 3 times, looking for my name. Nothing. My first thought was, maybe there was a separate email coming. I'd mentioned possibly extending my trip by a few days to check out some hiking trails, so maybe my arrangements were being handled differently. Logical explanation. Made sense. By Wednesday morning, still nothing. So I called my mom. Oh, Declan, honey. Her voice went syrupy sweet. Same tone she used when I was 12 and she forgot to pick me up from swim practice. We forgot to book your seat and hotel room, and now everything's booked up. I'm so sorry. I heard laughter in the background. Multiple voices. Someone said something I couldn't quite catch. Mom, this wedding has been planned for 16 months. How do you forget to book arrangements for your own son? These things happen, sweetie. It's not like you were in the wedding party anyway. Maybe you can watch the live stream? Live stream. She actually suggested live stream, like I was some distant coworker who couldn't be bothered to show up. Not her son who'd driven 9 hours to be there when Meredith's first engagement imploded, who'd helped her move into 4 different apartments, who'd loaned her $3,000 when she was between jobs 2 years ago. Money I never asked about again because that's what family does. I, 34 male, and I'd learned to expect minimal effort from these people. But this was a new personal best. Can't you call the resort? Explain the situation? Honey, it's peak season in Kauai. Everything's booked solid. Your father already tried. Something about her tone told me my father hadn't tried a single thing. I hung up and called Meredith. Despite everything, my sister and I had always been close. She was 2 years younger, and while our parents and brother openly treated me like the family disappointment, Meredith had usually been in my corner. Mir, please tell me this is some kind of mix-up. Declan! She was whispering, which meant she wasn't alone. I'm so sorry. I thought Mom and Dad handled your arrangements. They told me they had everyone covered. Everyone except me, apparently. While she talked, I pulled up Instagram on my laptop, started scrolling. And there it was. Cousin after cousin posting excited updates about their upcoming Hawaiian vacation for Meredith's wedding. Aunts, uncles, people I hadn't seen in years. All confirmed. All booked. Even Bryce is going? I asked, spotting my brother's post showing off his business class seat. The caption read, Kauai bound for my baby sister's big day. Best man privileges hit different. Yes, Mom and Dad insisted he be there. You know how they are about. Her phone pinged. She said, hold on. Then my phone buzzed. Meredith had accidentally forwarded me a screenshot meant for her fiancé Jordan. It was from a family group chat, one I wasn't part of. The chat was titled Meredith's Wedding, Main Planning. The messages made everything click into place. Mom, handled the Declan situation? Told him everything's booked up. Dad, good. Last thing we need is him making a scene or embarrassing us in front of Jordan's family. Bryce, did he buy it? Mom, hook, line, and sinker. He won't be bothering us in Hawaii. Dad, perfect. Now we can actually enjoy the trip without walking on eggshells. Bryce, lol, finally a family vacation without the drama. Should have done this years ago. I stared at those messages for 2 full minutes. Read them 4 more times. I'd expected rage, or maybe hurt. What I felt instead was just cold. Like finally seeing proof of something you always knew but couldn't nail down. Declan, you still there? Meredith's voice sounded small. You need to explain this right now. I forwarded the screenshot back to her. Her gasp sounded genuine. Oh my God, I had no idea. I swear I thought you were included. They told me everyone was taken care of. I believed her, but that didn't make any of it easier to swallow. I called my father the next morning. Didn't bother with pleasantry. I saw the group chat. I know you deliberately didn't book my ticket or room. Long pause. Then he cleared his throat, switched into his corporate voice. He runs a regional insurance brokerage, loves pretending he's some kind of executive. Look, son, we thought the wedding would go smoother without you there. Jordan's family has some important business connections attending. We can't afford any incidents. Incidents? When have I ever caused an incident? The 4th of July 3 years ago. Your cousin's graduation party. Your temper, Declan. The way you get when you feel slighted. We're just being practical. Dad, at that 4th of July, you spent 45 minutes telling everyone my job was basically playing with computers for a living. You called my apartment a halfway house. You brought up my ex-girlfriend 4 separate times. And when I finally responded, suddenly I'm the one with the temper problem. I work as a systems administrator for a hospital network. It's not glamorous, but it pays well, and I'm good at it. To my father, anything that doesn't involve a corner office and business cards isn't a real career. See, this is exactly what I mean. You can't let anything go. And at the graduation, Bryce literally took credit for the gift I bought and wrapped. I have the Amazon order history. Always keeping score. Always building a case against everyone. This is why people find you exhausting, Declan. I sat on my couch, memories flooding back. Yeah, I'd gotten into arguments at family events. After hours of non-stop disrespect that nobody else seemed to notice or care about. In my family's twisted math, standing up for myself always equaled causing a scene. This is a new low, even for you. You'll get over it, my father said. You always do. That night, I went full detective mode. I called the resort directly, explained I was Declan, brother of the bride, and there seemed to be a mix-up with my reservation. The receptionist was sympathetic. I'm so sorry, sir, but we're completely booked for those dates. It's our busiest season. She paused, typing something. Actually, it looks like your sister's wedding party reserved a block of 30 rooms about 8 months ago. 30 rooms? Yes, sir. It's one of our larger events this year. 30 rooms. And somehow they forgot to book one for their own son and brother. I spent the next 2 days calling every airline with flights to Kauai. Searched Airbnbs, hotels, even considered sleeping in a rental car if I could just get there. Nothing worked. Between the wedding and spring break season, everything within a reasonable distance was legitimately full. I tried one more avenue, called Meredith back. What if I stayed with you? I could sleep on the floor. I don't care. I already suggested that. Her voice was tight. Jordan's parents said no. They're paying for the honeymoon suite as our wedding gift, and they don't want anyone else there. What about Bryce? Dad mentioned he got a suite with a living room. The silence told me everything. They won't even ask him, will they? Mom and Dad contributed $6,000 toward Bryce's trip, she finally admitted. They said it was important for him to be comfortable since he's giving a speech. $6,000. The same parents who told me 3 months ago they couldn't help with my flight because they were stretched thin. The same parents who swore they were handling everyone's arrangements equally. Then came the last nail in the coffin. One of my cousins posted a photo from her Hawaii-bound flight. Thanks Uncle and Auntie for the surprise upgrade to first class. Hashtag best cousin wedding. She had been given my hotel room and a first class upgrade. The everything's booked excuse was another lie. They'd deliberately given away my spot to her. When I called my mother to confront her about my cousin's room, her mask finally slipped. You've always been so sensitive, Declan. This isn't about you. It's about giving Meredith the perfect wedding without worrying about your feelings getting hurt over every little thing, or you getting into one of your moods. Why can't you just think about someone else for once? In their heads, I was the selfish one for wanting to be at my own sister's wedding. I was the bad guy for being upset about getting cut out on purpose. That night, lying in bed staring at the ceiling, I made a decision. If they wanted me gone so badly, I'd give them exactly what they wanted. But not just from the wedding, from everything. Saturday morning, I made coffee, set up my laptop on my kitchen table, and logged into the private live stream link Meredith had texted me with another apology. The camera showed an outdoor venue overlooking the ocean. White chairs in perfect rows, a floral arch with the Pacific stretching out behind it. Guests filtering in wearing linen suits and sundresses. I watched faces I hadn't seen in years take their seats. Cousins from Ohio, my dad's golf buddies, my mom's book club crew, extended family who'd barely spoken to Meredith in a decade, all of them flown out on the family dime, while I sat alone in my apartment 3,000 miles away. Then I noticed it. Front row next to my parents, there was an empty chair with a place card. Declan. The planner fussed with it like it mattered, then stepped back and acted like it was totally normal. Meredith probably insisted I have a seat, because she still had that maybe he'll show hope. My parents didn't fight it. An empty chair looks tragic and classy, and it lets them do the sad saint routine later. We saved him a spot. It also makes my absence look like my choice, not theirs. Perfect optics, zero effort, maximum control. The ceremony started. My dad walked Meredith down the aisle. She looked beautiful, but even through the screen, I could see her eyes dart to that empty chair as she passed. Her smile faltered for half a second. During the vows, my mother dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, full performance mode. My father sat beaming in the front row, while Bryce stood tall next to Jordan at the altar, both sides of my family looking like a stock photo of the perfect supportive unit. After the ceremony, my phone started blowing up with tagged posts. Such a beautiful ceremony. Wish you could have made it, Declan. Missing you today, cousin. Family isn't complete without you. The fake concern was almost impressive. They were creating a public narrative that I'd chosen not to come, or couldn't afford the trip, or was too unstable to travel. No one acknowledged the truth. A different cousin, one of the few family members who'd always genuinely been in my corner, texted me separately. This is messed up. I know what they did. I'm recording some of this so you can see how they're acting. The videos she sent over the next few hours told the real story. During the reception, my father stood up to toast. He did the glass tap thing, like he'd been waiting all night to be the main character. Before I start, he said, smiling like a politician at breakfast, we did save a seat for Declan. He couldn't make it. He let that hang just long enough for people to do the sad nod. Then he added, casual as a paper cut, probably for the best. Big events can be a lot. A few people chuckled. Not roaring laughter, more that polite, we don't know the story, but we'll follow your lead noise. Then he launched into the safe, sentimental stuff. All scripted, all clean tonight. My cousin's videos kept coming throughout the night. Bryce's speech included a line about being the brother who actually shows up when it matters. My mother told a guest, loud enough for the phone to pick up, Declan was just so jealous of all the attention Meredith's getting. You know how he is. He's always been the difficult one. My father's golf buddy, someone I'd helped move furniture last summer for free, was caught saying, some people just can't be happy for others, you know? It's almost clinical at this point. The last stunt came late in the reception, when the photo booth crowd got restless for group shots. They had the usual goofy props, and somebody printed my face on a stick from an old Facebook pic. One of my aunts waved it around like she'd invented comedy. Now Declan's here, she announced. People took turns posing with it. Smirks, fake conversations, mean kid improv. One of Bryce's friends pantomimed me ranting at the camera. My cousin texted, they're telling everyone you refused to come because you were jealous, that you're having emotional problems again. I tried to defend you, but nobody's listening. I closed my laptop. Something clicked that night. The hurt didn't go away. It just got cold and quiet. If they wanted to create a narrative about me being absent, I'd give them an absence they'd never forget. The Monday after the wedding, I woke up and everything was crystal clear. This wasn't some emotional meltdown. This was 34 years of being treated like garbage finally adding up. I needed a clean break, and I needed to do it right. My company's Denver office had been trying to poach me for months. Our hospital network was expanding there, and they needed someone who understood the existing systems. I'd always said no because Denver meant leaving everyone I knew. That reason no longer applied. Family situation, I told my manager when she asked about the sudden interest. She didn't push. HR had me set up within 3 weeks. I gave notice on my apartment, month-to-month lease. Started researching places in Denver, focusing on buildings with good security, and no paper trail connecting to my current address. But here's where it got complicated. My mother had me listed as an authorized user on one of her credit cards from years ago, supposedly for emergency. I'd never used it, but I realized she could potentially track my spending if I wasn't careful. I closed that connection first. Then I discovered my father still had access to my location through a family phone plan I'd forgotten we shared. I'd been paying my own bill for years, but the account was technically still in his name. Switching carriers took 3 days and 2 trips to the phone store because the first rep couldn't figure out how to port my number without alerting the account holder. New bank accounts came next. Regional credit union my family had never heard of, with electronic statements only. P.O. box in a neighboring zip code for anything I actually needed mailed. Closed all social media and created new accounts under slightly different name variations. Deck instead of Declan. Profile pictures that didn't show my face clearly. My car needed new brakes 3 days before I was supposed to leave. $800 I hadn't planned on spending. The mechanic told me I was lucky I caught it before the cross-country drive. I didn't feel lucky. I ended up selling most of my furniture at a loss and shipping what I actually needed via UPS. Cost twice as much and took twice as long as the moving company would have. Nothing about this exit was clean or easy, but every obstacle just proved I was making the right choice. If leaving was this hard, imagine how hard staying would have been. Meanwhile, the family fallout arrived right on schedule. 3 days after the wedding, my mother texted, "You could at least acknowledge the lovely ceremony. Meredith is hurt by your silence." I didn't respond. Next day, "Stop being childish, Declan. You're making Meredith's honeymoon all about you again." From my father, "Man up and call your sister. This silent treatment is pathetic. Bryce, way to make her special day all about your drama." Classic. I read each message like I was watching someone else's life. Funny how fast they went from fake concern to ticked off when I didn't do my usual thing of apologizing for having feelings. By week 2, the tone changed. My mother left voicemails about being worried about my mental health. My father mentioned reaching out to the police if I didn't respond. Bryce suggested I was having another episode. Not one of them acknowledged their role in any of this. Meredith's messages were different. Genuinely concerned. Please just let me know you're okay. Whatever happened, we can work through it. I broke my silence only for her. One text. I'm fine. Need space. We'll contact you when ready. The night before I left, I got a knock on my door at 11 p.m. My mother standing in the hallway, having driven 3 hours because I wasn't answering my phone. Declan, this has gone far enough. Whatever point you're trying to make. I'm not making a point. I'm making a choice. A choice? To punish everyone who loves you because your feelings got hurt? I looked at her for a long moment. This woman who deliberately excluded me from my sister's wedding, then spent the reception turning me into a joke, was now standing at my door playing the concerned mother. I watched the reception videos, Mom. My cousin sent them to me. Her face did about 3 different things before landing on offended. That was just family humor. You know your father's sense of, I'm moving, tonight actually. Don't look for me. I closed the door, locked it, finished loading the last box into my car. By 6 a.m., I was on the road to Denver, leaving behind everything familiar. It should have felt terrifying. Instead, it felt like the first real decision I'd made in years. 4 months in Denver, and I barely recognized my life. The new job was going better than expected. When you're not constantly drained from family chaos, you actually have energy to focus on your work. I took on a major server migration project that had been delayed for over a year because nobody wanted to deal with the complexity. Finished it in 8 weeks. I joined a hiking group, made actual friends, people who knew me only as I was now, not who my family had labeled me to be. Started dating a physical therapist named Vivian. For the first time, I was in a relationship where I didn't feel like I had to constantly explain or apologize for my family situation. But I wasn't just building a new life. I was also building a system. My cousin's updates kept coming, though less frequently as my family's urgency about finding me started to fade. The narrative had shifted. Now they're saying you're finding yourself and they're giving you space, she reported. Like this was their idea all along. Classic. But the family didn't stop looking. They just got more creative. Month 5, I got an email from a recruiter asking about job opportunities. The email address was a Gmail, created 2 days earlier. The recruiter's name was an anagram of my brother's name. Bryce never was particularly clever. I reported the email as spam and moved on. Month 6, a private investigator showed up at my old apartment building asking questions. Except it was actually my father's golf buddy, the same one who'd called me almost clinical at the wedding. My old neighbor recognized him from a barbecue I'd hosted the previous summer and sent me a heads up. My neighbor told him I'd moved to Portland, which was a lie, but he apparently believed it and spent a week calling Portland area hospitals trying to find someone who worked with me. I bought my neighbor a gift card for covering my tracks. Month 7, my mother tried to file a missing person report. The police called me directly since my new address was in my updated driver's license. Apparently she'd claimed I was at risk and potentially dangerous to myself. Awkward conversation with the officer, but they closed the case immediately once they confirmed I was alive, employed, and choosing not to communicate with my family. The officer actually apologized for wasting my time. Said it happens more often than people think. Families trying to use law enforcement to force contact with adult relatives who want to be left alone. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from an attorney claiming to represent my parents in a wellness check matter. The letter demanded I provide proof of stability, including employment records, housing documentation, and personal references. I showed it to a lawyer friend who laughed and said it had 0 legal standing. Sent a 1-sentence reply declining to participate. Never heard from them again. Then came month 8. My cousin forwarded me an email chain from the family. My father had been diagnosed with a heart condition, supposedly triggered by stress over my disappearance. My mother was planning a family gathering to support each other during this difficult time. I called my cousin directly. What's the real story? Your dad's fine, she said. I saw him at the club last week playing 18 holes. When I mentioned the heart thing, he actually laughed and said sometimes family needs a little motivation to come together. There it was. A fake health scare to drag me back home. The manipulation was so obvious it was almost insulting. There's something else, she added. Your mom's been telling people you have a substance problem, that you disappeared to go to rehab. I don't even take aspirin. I know, but it's working. People feel sorry for them now. Poor them, dealing with such a troubled son. I thanked her for the heads up and kept doing my thing. The peace I had in Denver told me everything I needed to know. Month 9, things shifted again. Meredith called. First real conversation since I'd left. Jordan and I are separating, she said, voice raw. Remember those screenshots you sent me before you moved? The family chat? It made me start paying attention to how his family operated. Same patterns, same rigid roles. The wedding pressure just magnified everything. She explained that Jordan's family functioned exactly like ours. Same blame one person for everything energy. Same obsession with looking perfect. Once she saw it, she couldn't unsee it. I'm not saying it's permanent, she clarified. We're both in counseling, but for the first time, I'm actually prioritizing what I need over what everyone expects. We started talking regularly after that, rebuilding something real. Month 10, I got an unexpected call. My grandmother, my father's mother, who'd essentially vanished from family life when I was a teenager. I heard about what happened, she said without preamble. My granddaughter told me everything. I wanted you to know you're not the first one they've done this to. Turns out the family dynamics didn't start with me. My father had been the golden child in his generation. His brother had been the scapegoat. My grandmother had tried to intervene and got labeled difficult and gradually frozen out. Your father learned it from watching your grandfather, she explained. And your mother came from a family with similar patterns. They reinforced each other. It goes back generations on both sides. Talking to her filled in blanks I didn't even know were there. What happened to me wasn't personal. It was just how this family worked. Different generations, same playbook. A few weeks later, Meredith called with news about their 35th anniversary party. They're calling it a healing gathering, Meredith said. Mom's been telling everyone it's about bringing the family back together. Let me guess. The unspoken theme is getting me to fall back in line. Our cousin says there's a whole plan. Dad's calling it an intervention. I'd been expecting something like this. 11 months of silence clearly wasn't getting them what they wanted. So they were stepping it up. What exactly are they planning? Meredith had been quietly documenting things since our conversation started. It was one of the changes I'd seen in her. She'd stopped automatically defending family behavior and started actually looking at it. They've assigned roles. Dad's the voice of reason. Mom's the wounded mother. Bryce is supposed to contrast his reliability against your instability. Various cousins and aunts are lined up to share concerns about your behavior over the years. So a coordinated character assassination disguised as concern. Essentially, our uncle isn't invited, by the way. Grandma either. Just the people who'll play along. I thought about it for a full week. Old me would have either skipped it or shown up ready to fight, which is exactly what they wanted. But I wasn't that guy anymore. I'm going to go, I told Meredith. Are you sure? They're going to? I know exactly what they're going to do. That's the point. I spent the next 3 weeks getting ready. First, I organized everything I documented over the years. Screenshots, recordings, timestamps, financial records showing how differently they treated me versus Bryce, text messages, social media posts. Not to use as weapons, but as evidence. Second, I did some digging on my family's business stuff and professional connection. My father's insurance brokerage had some interesting client relationships I'd noticed over the years. Bryce's construction company had contracts with several municipal entities that had specific ethical requirements. My mother's position on her hospital's auxiliary board came with certain professional standards. I wasn't planning to destroy anyone, but I wanted to know what cards I had if they tried to take things further. Third, I called my grandmother. I want you there, I told her. Whatever happens, they won't want me. They don't get to decide who I bring. She laughed. First time I'd ever heard her sound genuinely happy about something family-related. The night before the gathering, my cousin called with final intel. They're planning to present you with a list of conditions for rejoining the family. Regular check-ins, supervised visits, mandatory counseling but only with a therapist they approve, and written apologies to various family members for your behavior over the years. Written apologies. Bryce apparently drafted a template. Of course he did. One more thing, she added. Your mom's been telling everyone you might be unstable enough to get violent. She's arranged for one of your other uncles to be ready to intervene if you have an episode. They were laying groundwork to physically remove me if I didn't submit. Preparing witnesses who'd confirm I was the aggressor if anything went wrong. So I switched up my approach. The day of the gathering, I arrived 45 minutes early, parked down the street, walked in before most people arrived, while my parents were still fussing over appetizer arrangements. My mother saw me first. Her face did shock. Then panic, then this fake warmth thing. Declan, you came early! We weren't expecting, we're so glad. Hello, Mother. Happy anniversary. My father appeared from the kitchen, glass in hand. His face went through similar gymnastics. Son, good to see you. The words came out like he was reading from a script he hadn't fully memorized. Dad, the next 20 minutes were wild to watch. Family members filtered in, each one visibly startled to see me already there. Their whole plan depended on me walking into a room full of people already primed against me. Showing up early messed with their setup. Bryce showed up last, saw me, and immediately huddled with my father in the corner. Lots of urgent whispering. My grandmother arrived shortly after, which caused another wave of she wasn't supposed to be here. That threw another wrench in their plans. By the time dinner started, their whole coordinated thing was already falling apart. People kept shooting glances at each other, clearly unsure whether to proceed with the plan or improvise. I kept things light. Asked about jobs, kids, vacations, completely normal behavior. Every normal conversation I had chipped away at their whole he's unstable story. After dinner, my father tapped his glass. Now that we're all comfortable, I think it's time we address why we're really here. He fixed me with his stern gaze. Declan, your behavior over the past year has caused this family tremendous pain. We've all been affected by your choices. Here it came, right on schedule. We've compiled a list, he continued, producing typed pages. Instances where your behavior has been problematic, dating back to when you were a teenager. We thought it might help you understand the patterns others see that you apparently don't. One by one, family members contributed their pieces. Every time I'd stood up for myself was labeled aggressive. Every boundary I'd set was selfish withdrawal. Even being excluded from the wedding was somehow evidence of my instability. Bryce spoke about the burden of being the responsible brother. A bunch of aunts chimed in with their rehearsed little stories. Throughout it all, I stayed silent, made eye contact with each speaker, poker face. You could see them squirming. They'd expected defensiveness, anger, maybe a breakdown that would confirm their diagnosis. Me just sitting there calm and quiet threw them off completely. Finally, my father concluded, "So we've all agreed. If you want to be part of this family going forward, there need to be conditions." He produced another document. The conditions my cousin had warned me about. Regular check-ins, supervised visits, approved counseling, written apologies, and, this was new, financial restitution for the emotional burden I'd placed on the family. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. I took a slow sip of water, set down my glass. Thank you all for sharing. I've listened to everything. Now I'd like to respond. Protest started, but I raised my hand. I listened without interrupting. Same courtesy, please. What followed took 15 minutes. I started with facts. Documented proof of every incident they'd listed, with the actual context they conveniently left out. Screenshots and timestamps proving the wedding exclusion was deliberate. The group chat messages. The financial records showing Bryce had received over $40,000 in family support over the past 5 years while I'd been told they were stretched thin. Then I hit them with the patterns. Showed how every time I'd objected to mistreatment, the family had coordinated to reframe my objection as the problem. How the same tactics were used on my uncle 20 years ago. How my grandmother had been frozen out for noticing the same things I'd noticed. I ended with the reception videos from the wedding. Played them on my phone, loud enough for everyone to hear. My father's jokes, my mother's fabrications, the face on a stick bit. The room was very quiet. "I'm not looking for apologies," I said. "And I'm not asking for anything to change. I just wanted everyone here to see exactly what's been happening, documented so well that nobody could spin it. Whatever you choose to do with this information is your business. But the family narrative about me ends today." I stood up. One more thing. Every document I've referenced tonight exists in multiple secure locations. If anyone decides to escalate this, professionally, legally, socially, I'll respond in kind. I'd rather not, but I want that understood. I looked directly at my father. He'd gone pale. "Happy anniversary. I'll see myself out." The fallout wasn't immediate. It was gradual, and it was largely self-inflicted. Within weeks of the gathering, the family drama started leaking into places they couldn't control. Extended relatives who'd witnessed the intervention started talking. Old family friends who'd watched the dynamics for years finally felt safe saying what they'd observed. The whole perfect family act was starting to crack. The first real domino fell when one of my father's biggest insurance clients, a regional hospital network, caught wind of the situation through a compliance officer who'd seen the social media fallout. Benefits departments do vendor checks at renewal time, and someone had forwarded the reception video in a work group chat. They started asking questions about the character of the broker handling their employee benefits contracts. I didn't initiate this. I didn't have to. I just made sure the publicly available information was easy to find for anyone who went looking. And when people asked me directly, I didn't lie or play dumb. His contract came up for renewal 3 months later. They went with a different broker. Lost account worth roughly $200,000 annually in commissions. The second domino. Bryce's construction company. Remember those municipal contracts with ethical requirements? One of them included a clause about maintaining professional standards of personal conduct for primary stakeholders. Bryce had posted some things on social media over the years that, when compiled together, painted a pattern that certain government officials found concerning. Bid evaluations are petty and paperwork heavy, and procurement folks don't like headlines, even secondhand ones. Again, I didn't file any complaints. I didn't contact anyone directly. I simply made sure his public posts were saved where anyone could find them. When his contract came up for rebid, his competitors had access to the same information anyone else did. He lost 2 of his 3 municipal contracts over the next 6 months, had to lay off 4 employees. The third domino, my mother's hospital board position. The auxiliary board had standards of conduct requirements. One of the other board members, who I'd never met, happened to see the Facebook drama and recognized my mother's name. Hospital auxiliary boards run on gossip and image, and she'd handed them a story they could verify in 5 minutes. She'd apparently been claiming at board meetings that her son was in recovery and that the family was dealing with mental health challenges. When it became clear that story was fabricated for sympathy, her reputation on the board tanked. She wasn't removed, but she was quietly moved from chairing committees to basically just showing up with no actual responsibilities. After that, more people stopped returning their calls. Invitations dried up. The social circle they'd spent decades building started keeping its distance. Throughout all of this, I didn't make a single phone call, didn't file a single complaint, didn't send a single anonymous tip. I just stopped protecting them from the consequences of their own behavior, stopped keeping family secrets, stopped pretending everything was fine. That was the nuclear option they never saw coming. I didn't blow anything up. I just stopped covering for them and let the truth do the work. The last face-to-face went down 9 months after the anniversary gathering. My father requested a meeting. Neutral location. Just the 2 of us. We met at a coffee shop near the airport. His choice, though. I suspected he picked it so he could bail quick. He looked older. Tired. The past year had clearly taken a toll. I'm not going to apologize, he said immediately. I don't think I was wrong to want to protect your sister's wedding. I know, but I underestimated you. He looked at his coffee cup. I didn't think you had it in you. The organization, the follow-through, the patience. That's the thing about scapegoats, Dad. We get really good at keeping records because nobody else is going to back us up. Is this what you wanted? Watching the family fall apart? The family falling apart isn't my doing. It's just what happens when the whole thing was held together by one person eating garbage so everyone else could play happy family. I stopped doing that. He didn't have a response to that. What do you want? He finally asked. Seriously, what would it take for this to stop? Stop what? I haven't done anything except tell the truth and decline to attend events where I'll be mistreated. If the truth is damaging, that's not my fault. The truth, he almost laughed. You've always been obsessed with your version of the truth. My version has receipts. Yours has 30 years of people being afraid to contradict you. We sat in silence for a while. Your grandmother, he said finally. She's been calling people, telling stories about when I was younger. Things I thought were forgotten. Things that are apparently relevant now. He looked at me directly for the first time. Did you plan all of this? From the beginning? I shook my head. I planned to disappear and build a life where I wasn't constantly being undermined. Everything that happened after was just consequences finally landing in the right places. Consequences. Actions have them. Even actions you thought you got away with. He stood up. Our meeting was over. I don't know if this family can recover from what you've done, he said. What I've done is tell the truth. If the family can't survive truth, it was never healthy to begin with. He left. I finished my coffee. 6 weeks later, Meredith called with an update. Mom's stepping down from the board. Dad's talking about early retirement. Bryce is trying to sell his company to a competitor before things get worse. How do you feel about all of it? She was quiet for a moment. Honestly, relieved. For the first time in my life, I don't have to pretend everything's fine. The Emperor has no clothes and everyone finally sees it. And us? We're good. I could hear her smiling through the phone. Better than we've ever been, actually. You're the only one who ever treated me like a person instead of a prop. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.